sige. Ininiskomasko sitten niitä. Iniskun nipittä Pimicikamak.
He stood there saying a prayer. He said, "Manto, I hope I'm doing right."
Do you know what the red building is at the road there?
The administration building.
This building here is we're supposed to, chief and council were supposed to be staying there. I don't know why they moved to over there. As far as I know, I remember the chief and council were always in the central.
I was just wondering why is it so far away from everybody? This ban office here, that's where I thought everybody was all this time, and I didn't even know that the whole building was there.
The office was built in the location it was at because of capital cost. It had to deal with location. It had to deal with water and sewer access. It was a reasonable thing to do, and it was reasonable cost.
Do you know why the chief and council are over at the red building all the time now?
Because that's their office now. That's the government building now.
The red building that people in Cross Lake are starting to notice is our first ever Pimicikamak Okinawan administration office. Pimicikamak Okinawan historically has never had a building, a government building where they can work out of. In their attempt to work with governments and Manitoba Hydro in implementing the many promises they made to the people, whether it's 1875 or 1977 from the Northern Flood Agreement.
As a councillor, executive council member for Pimicikamak, I'm very proud to do that work, but I also have another hat to wear. That's as a councillor for the band, where we have to do administer the poverty of our own people. And I want to use very harsh words because our people are living in poverty, and this is where administrating our poverty from the Cross Lake Band of Indians office. If I gave you the numbers, you would see how much our people are being underfunded when it comes to education, health, social service, everything, public works, everything compared to a non-native community. So that's how I see it, and that's how I feel. And I'm not going to take my words back. Yeah.
The purpose of the ban on Ininiwak is basically to attempt to extinguish the identity of the people. Okay, that's the purpose. Yes, 141 years later, people are really rediscovering their identity as who they are really as Pimicikamak people. Not just being who it is what the Indian Act says as a band member.
The Indian Act created Indian bands, and it created chief and councils, and it created band memberships, and it created Indian reservations, which were tracts of land inside our territory for the purpose of administering their system of governance with one sole purpose, and that was to extinguish the original people and their God-given jurisdiction, their God-given identity, their language, their culture, and way of life.
We never gave up our title to the land. We never gave up our resources. So when I was chief, that's when we decided to do our own laws, our own granted laws, granted rights, and that's where we took that big step, first for Aboriginals in right across Turtle Island. We took that step and we're still driving it. It's all about survival of the people. And it's always, the governments are always trying to extinguish our rights, and we're not going to allow that.
For thousands and thousands of years before the foreigners came to our land, we were the people from across the land, across this land. We didn't apply on anybody, just ourselves. That's how you lived. People lived in those days. Family allowance was introduced on a reserve, and welfare. And people were told at that time not to go to their trap lines anymore. So the people have to go to school.
As Pimicikamak territory, it holds the whole community, the whole tract of land, okay, where Manitoba Hydro crosses through the rivers. Okay, this is the issue that Pimicikamak is facing. What is the authority of Pimicikamak? What is the authority of the band? When you take a look at the Indian Act, when you read through the Indian Act like I did for the last 25 years, Indian Act serves not the people, it serves the persons who actually wrote the Indian Act, which is basically Canada. Okay? It doesn't serve us of anything.
As an Indian band, as a First Nation, the government of Canada says, this is good for you, this is good for you, this is good for you, try it. And in the history, our 200-year history with the Canadian government, when have they come up with one thing that was ever good for us? Not one thing that I can recall.
My people should not be beggars in their own homeland. They should be the most vibrant, wealthiest and healthiest people in this continent. We never gave consent, nor could we sell the land even if we wanted to. Our spiritual responsibility is still to look after it for the future generations that are coming.
The band just started about in 1879, which is not a very long period of time. So your aboriginality to a particular place or indigenous particular place is you are indigenous to that indigenous land. But you're not indigenous to a reserve because it was made by somebody else in Ottawa, or the two parts of Canada made that.
We can almost categorize these Indian reservations as concentration camps, which was an outright breach of the treaty relationship they had with the nation of tribes, like Pimicikamak.
The very funny thing is how this thing seems to work at the end of the day. Basically, when you take a look at the Indian Act, what it did back in 1879, right up to where we are today, all residential schools, education, and not able to speak your language, not able to practice your culture, your way of life, the way it is back then, is the band itself. In a very, if I don't offend anybody, the band itself and the Indian Act is basically bringing in a very quiet cultural genocide. It erases your history of actually where you were. So basically it erases your identity.
It's really very simple when you think about it. It's what former Premier of Manitoba called identity theft. It's about taking over the government of Pimicikamak and turning it into a phony government that doesn't work, that doesn't really have the capacity to govern, and most importantly is cut off from its territory and is focused just on a tiny little piece of land called the reserve. The effect is that Pimicikamak's connection with its territory becomes weaker and weaker as time goes by.
We have to do things different because what we've experienced up to now in over 200 years of colonization, it hasn't worked. We need a better way. Ni somda to mitanawas kaya sa gayats that me mitsama kita swatiguak kichugimasko hogimawinak mots ke wan minu panigabit ng skagisik e gut se bugupitas ko ndago chitak kaisi tentamak ta is Hispanic. The things we think that are going to work for us, we have to put those into action. And that's what Pimicikamak is about.
Our people need to go home and exercise their God-given rights and gifts. That's where you're going to find healing, peace and solitude, is out on the land where you can heal your mind, body and spirit and reconnect with nature, reconnect with the animals, the winged ones, and more importantly, to reconnect with your spirit.
That's one of our programs here at the Pimicikamak Administration Office. We have a program called Ininiwak. It's for people to get back on the land, take their families to get back to the land, and it's the natural healing place, right? We have kids, adults, grandparents, teaching the younger generation on how the survival was back in the day.
Oh, you know, I feel so proud. This morning I just came from the PIM office, and four men were there. They practically thanked our staff, so how appreciative they were for this program, and we told them it's going to end soon, but we will have a spring program, and moving forward, what I told them was these are the kind of programs we want to bring more of to our people. So it is very encouraging for the people and for leadership. They feel more proud.
Our program Ininiwak is going very well. We're getting a lot of feedback on people. They've never been out before. They're having fun out there. It's what it's for. It's to connect back to the land and to see our territory. Our territory is so beautiful, but after the hydro effects, it's not the same, but we're trying to heal as a nation.
I'm glad there's a program in Ininiwak where people get assistance for food and gas and all for the families to take out their youth or their sons, their daughters, or their grandchildren out in the land. To show them the beauty and also to give them that peace. That's where I get my peace. That's where I get my therapy, to be out there. So it's good to be out in the land.
That the man biscuit stani wana, it is a man biscuit panikmat so niganik. This is why Pimicikamak exists today and why it was initiated by the elders back in 1980s, 1990s. The elders said we need to do this because what else has worked? A lot of times we just sat, it looked like we were just sitting in Cross Lake, Pimicikamak. We were looking at our watch and we're saying, when is the Queen coming with her promises that she promised us through treaties? That the reality is she's not coming. We have to find solutions ourselves and take it to the partners that are there for us to work with. We have to go and put solutions. We have to come up with ideas that we think will work and ideas that we know have worked in the past. And that's what Pimicikamak is about.
Piesuttamään ja twiitify. Piesuttamään aina piisi, missä kotetaan äsikin. Niin ei skomasko sitten niitä ei. Niin ei skun pitää mitsia piesuttamään.
He's up there saying a prayer to say manto. I hope I'm